Hello, welcome to the KeyHire live stream for human capital for small business. I'm your host, Corey Harlock, and creator of KeyHire. Welcome. Today we have a great topic today. It's going to be a conversation with an industry expert on marketing about how to market your brand to attract people in this crazy competitive market. I'm your host, Corey Harlock, and creator of KeyHire. Some brief notes on KeyHire. We are where consulting meets acquisition. We work with small businesses to do anything from upgrade a leadership role you might have in your business to bring capacity or experience. The bulk of the work we do is helping, working with business owners to create new roles, leadership roles within their company. How do they fit into the organization? How do those new reporting lines look? How do we communicate that change throughout the organization? And then the other end of that is complete human capital plans. Here's our current state business. We're at $5 million. We want to do 15. How does the organization need to look at $15 million? And then we put that action plan together. What new roles do we need to plug in and develop, acquire that talent, plug it in, and how does the organization change as you go? A few notes for today. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. We'd love to hear from you and know what you think. Other than that, enjoy. We're going to have a 15-minute conversation with our guest, Carolyn Lighty, and then I'll take 15 minutes afterwards and answer any questions. So I'd like to welcome Carolyn Lighty to our live stream here today. Carolyn is a marketing consultant extraordinaire. I had the pleasure, we worked together, was it 2 years ago?
Almost 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, we had the pleasure of working with Carolyn about 2 years ago, and a couple things struck me about you. Number one, you just have this kind, warm heart and spirit about you, and I enjoyed that. Number two, you are wicked smart. And number three, you are probably one of the most determined people I've ever met to get things done and push things through and do things the right way. You fight for what's right. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Corey. Those are great words, and I didn't even have to pay you for that.
No, you didn't. It's all free advertising. But it's so nice to catch up with you. So, I mean, I really want to pick your brain today about employee or employer branding in this kind of recruiting space. I think, when we were talking just earlier, you said marketing's marketing, and I think that's right. We need to differentiate. The quote I've been using a lot is, this is like the housing market of 12 months ago. Low inventory, bidding wars. How do you differentiate yourself? Because there's competition for everything that's going on.
Absolutely. It definitely is a candidate's market right now. So,
yeah,
the oyster is yours for the asking, right? The world is your oyster and so forth. And the companies that are out looking for top talent really need to understand how competitive it is and how to differentiate themselves so that they can stand out.
And I think a lot of people are just assuming, well, it'll be fine. Just do it the way you are. Like, how long can this position stay empty, right? We're going to find someone eventually. But I want to start at the beginning. So you and I worked together 2 years ago. I'm going to tap into your memory, your long-term memory here. But, KeyHire is modeled after outbound marketing, right? That whole target, engage, hire, specific, go after the people that don't advertise to everyone and hope someone buys your product, but advertise to the people are interested in your product. And just, it's always neat for people to get the other side of that story. What stood out, or what are the kind of top one or two things that stood out when we worked together that may have struck you as, hey, this is different than what I've seen in the past?
Well, it's interesting. And I don't think I shared with you the fact that way early in my career, I actually worked for a recruiting firm in New York City.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And that kind of, I don't know if it tainted my opinion of working with recruiters or not, but even from back then, any recruiter, it just seemed like the candidate was a commodity, right? To be sold for that commission or fee that they were going to get. In talking to you instantly, I felt that you were authentic. You were very genuine, very engaging. And I really felt that you really cared about me as much as you cared about your client. And that's not something that you see a lot of. So that stood out for me.
Awesome. And just some background on that. because we don't work with fees, and you're right, that agency model is not genuine, because when the client's main objective is to get the best person, and the agency's main objective is to fill a role and get paid.
Right.
I've always found there was a gap there. And I used to own an agency, and it just never sit right with me. And I've always said there are a lot of people out there giving, part of what I do a real bad name. And I fight really hard every day to kind of overcome that and say, no. It doesn't have to be like that.
Well, you definitely did that with me. Not to mention that your vetting process, the questions that you asked me, I'm going to be honest, they were some of the hardest, but only because I hadn't really looked at how to present my intrinsic value as well as the quantifiable value that companies look for. So you made me do some soul searching, and I appreciated that.
And that's super valuable from my side, because I'm looking at culture fit too, right? Not just skills. And I think that was, that's a differentiator as well, because we take time to create those custom interview guides around exactly that. It's not just skills, but it's got to be culture fit. I mean, you joined a small company, and when you join a small company, if there are 5 people on that leadership team and we put a new person on there, that is 18% of the culture being represented by that individual. And it's got to be a good fit.
Yeah, synergy is very important, especially in those leadership roles. But even on the other levels, if everyone isn't working and running in the same direction or rowing in the same direction, and able to communicate, and understand how to work together, it's just not going to work.
Very cool. Okay, so let's tap into your marketing brain here.
Right.
Matt, what did we have here next? I just want to make sure I asked the right one. So how can small business owners leverage marketing practices to better engage and acquire talent? So that's a real fancy way of saying, for people that are listening and thinking, okay, I'm buying into this being a tight market. I'm not just going to sit here and think we'll do this, definition of insanity, right? Do the same thing, get the same result. What kind of interesting marketing techniques or philosophies do you think would benefit a small business owner when they're trying to differentiate themselves in a tight market?
I think it starts with an evolution of their thought process. Often a corporation or a company, small company, has a job description, and then they want to publish the job description. Well, how many other millions of companies are publishing job descriptions for something similar or the same thing? What's important in this market where candidates are more savvy and they're looking for the human side of your business, your differentiators, what are you inclusive, work-life balance, community, heart for the community. These are the types of things that the current candidates are looking for to make sure that this is a fit for them in terms of their morals and the things that are important to them and helping them to achieve their goals. So how do you find those people? So instead of looking at the job description, in marketing, we create personas, right? Inbound marketing, outbound marketing, everywhere. You're creating a persona. Who is your target? And I submit that or recommend that, start to create these personas. What are the interests of this type of person? What drives their interest? What are their goals? How does my company fit there with what their aspirations are? Understanding exactly who you're targeting and creating those personas helps you develop the messaging that's going to be a differentiator. And I think that that's the way I would definitely approach that, is beginning with that process.
So I have about a million thoughts, but we do something similar to that with our avatar building, right? That the personas, I'm a big believer in the personas. And you reference job descriptions, which are my favorite. I call them wish lists, right? Because people create a job description, like, oh, and if they could do this, oh yeah, and if they could do this and this, and then the problem with that is people look at it and go, well, I can only do like 60% of the stuff on this job description, so I won't even apply. Because meanwhile they're ideal, but you've just thrown so much stuff against the wall and hope something sticks, right?
Right.
So these personas, other than calling you and saying, hey, Carolyn, we'd like to hire you to help us develop personas, where would a business owner go to get this information? Or how would they get started?
There's a lot of, I mean, there's so many templates online. You can just search for, persona templates or persona development outlines, anything like that. There's one that I think is really cool and very simple that HubSpot actually makes available for free.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just a really simple format that they use, and you find out about their buying behavior, their drivers, your influence, what influences them, their communications preferences, which is also important. In this instance, instead of just placing a help wanted or a job, opening ad, you're going to want to be out there with content similar to what you're doing with even these podcasts. Providing content is what's going to move a savvy consumer of information. So a lot of these people have become, very voracious in terms of consuming information. The more information they find out there about you, your visibility equals your viability as a option for them, right? So the more visible you are as a company with your differentiators that speak to me and resonate with me based on that persona, the more you are likely to attract that top talent.
So you hit on something huge and it was earlier that I just keyed into. But, people are looking for more than the job and the name on the door.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer in your reputation is your best recruiting tool.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, I'm also a big believer in just the good, the bad, and the ugly. Transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Every job is perfect for someone.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that sometimes people in the acquisition process or when they get excited about bringing someone on board, no, let's agree, people will gloss over things and make it sound better than they were.
Yes, yes.
So, what kind of, especially in a marketing sense, what kind of damage does that do if you advertise a product and then someone gets it and it's not as advertised? What kind of damage can that do to a business?
Well, you've just fueled your turnover. If you do that, your turnover ratio must be, way up here if you're doing that. Only in that it's nice to attract, you put the bait out there, you attract, you get, you catch the fish, right? But now the fish is jumping around. How are you going to keep the fish in the boat? How are you going to do that? And you're not going to be doing that, be able to do that with untruths or a bad reputation. Today, especially, on the executive level, you've built a brand, a reputation, a personal brand and reputation. Going with a company that, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping into the next question. I'm sorry. Going into a company that does not have good morals or good business practices is going to affect you just as much as, you would affect them. So in as much as you're being interviewed by the company, you need to interview them and really dig deep, to understand exactly where they stand.
Okay, so that's an interesting point. You said, especially when you're hiring a leader, they consider themselves to have a brand as well. Mm-hmm. And we do the hiring in the key of C, and one of those C's is around making sure we're understanding what is happening with the person on the other side, not running them around, not wasting their time, mm-hmm. Not leading them on, being truthful all the time. So I think there's a switch that can be made there from a business owner to understand, okay, if I'm bringing in this leader and I need to do things this way, but if I think of them as their own brand or their own company within a company, if you will, right, mm-hmm. then they need to be able to give them some latitude mm-hmm. to be able to do things their way, right?
Yes, and that's a really good one. Because often I've had to say, and not too often, earlier in my career, I remember having a conversation with an executive VP. This is when I was doing telemarketing consulting, and I was actually just doing consulting, but a company wanted to hire me full time. I came in, set things up. It was wonderful. It was in jewelry manufacturing, the business. And I had this conversation because the executive VP said, well, Carolyn, why don't we just do it this way? It doesn't have to be all that you've put together. Let's just do it this way. And I had to say, Tom, you hired me because of my expertise in this area, and it's working. You're getting these emails, right. And now you want me to change it. And I know that what you're recommending isn't going to work. So we had to negotiate that. But often you come in and you're able to develop something as a leader, but you're not allowed to unless you have, kind of gumption that I have to push through.
You said you're driven.
Get it.
You're driven to do what's right.
Right. Yeah.
But so I know you're not a licensed psychologist, but marketers play that role. So
Oh my goodness.
let me ask you this. What switch do you think an owner would need to flip to avoid those situations? Or how can they inquire in a more constructive way if they don't? Man, I'm all over the place, but because they don't understand what you're doing, or it's not the way they would do it, so they are out of their comfort zone. How can we get them just to relax and say, you know what, I'm going to trust this process. I hired an expert. I'm paying them as an expert. I need to let them do what they do. What do you think is driving that kind of wanting to get in and be involved?
I think it's a combination of things. I think they often, depending on the size of the company, but I think it may impact any kind of company, they have in their mind an expectation of how long they think this should take. So the time frame for the deliverable often is what drives their pushing to say, well, don't worry about that. Let's just do this instead, even if that won't work, but at least they feel like they're pushing their agenda. And sometimes they just don't know. I think that if you're coming into an environment where your reputation and credibility and your skill set speaks for itself, sometimes they just need to be convinced. You just might have to just do that. And I like to also quote third parties. I won't say I believe or I recommend. I'll say this is why I recommend it, because these are the other reasons. These are the best practices for what I'm recommending.
So my kind of human capital brain goes to, and if they weren't confident with the hire in the beginning, if they hired what I often refer to as the best of the worst candidate, there may already be a seed of doubt there, right? So it's like I'm handing over the keys to my sports car to someone and I don't really trust their driving record, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if that's it too, right? So putting that foundation, getting right back to the beginning of the conversation, right? Having putting people through the right process, vetting them correctly, making sure they're a good culture fit, asking all the right questions, making sure you have a great reputation and a great brand so you're attracting the best of the best out there, engaging in conversation so we can make sure we're confident that the person we're bringing in is, the probability of them succeeding is high.
Absolutely.
And then giving them the keys to the car, the sports car, and going, I trust.
Well, and it's a partnership, that whole employee-employer thing, it's a concept that I think needs to evolve as well. When you bring people into your company, there's some folks that are on a very, small businesses that think of it as a family. And, that's one way of looking at it. But you can't look at it as employer-employee, because then you're creating this division between you and that level of person. And you may even be stifling them. So if you look at it as this is a partnership of some sort, there are different levels and different types of partnerships. But on the executive level, this expert that you've brought in should be looked at as your partner and take ownership. They will take ownership. And just as much as this is your baby, it becomes their baby too.
And that's the challenge, right? Because they work so hard. Okay, so give us, this has been a conversation that's going to be, give us the big your top kind of 1 to 3 takeaways. A small business owner, if they're thinking about going out there and competing in the marketplace, personas were one, but give us kind of 3 bullets that we could do as a small business owner to kind of improve our opportunity to acquire the people we need in this market.
So to be a viable option, you need to be visible. So once you develop those personas, you're going to want to understand where they consume their information. So it's not just about advertising your position on a job board. It's about understanding where else they go for information and advertising there. So wherever they are, you want to be there too. So be visible. That would be one thing. The personas is a major one, because you can't develop the messaging without having those personas and understand who you're targeting and what their goals are and how you can help them achieve them. And finally, don't be afraid to try something different. You have to differentiate yourself, and you have to use different methods of doing that.
And a great way to do that is be add some humor into your messaging to kind of let people know that you don't take yourself too seriously sometimes.
Yes, I agree.
Cool.
I agree.
All right, we're going to put Matt to the test here, Carolyn. So tell us where we can find you and what we would want to find you for.
Okay, well, my website is evolvebrandmarketing.com. Are we going to put that on the screen?
You'll bring it up. Keep talking. There you go.
Oh, there we go. And there's a link. Yes, I actually.
Good work, Matt.
My book is interesting. With the pandemic and the number of businesses that closed permanently, I think that also flooded the market with candidates, right?
Yeah.
But this book is about pandemic recovery, and it's called Alphabet Soup. And it's kind of an A through Z recipe book. It's fun. Talk about fun. It's a very humorous book, a very easy read, and it's formatted like an actual recipe book. So it gives you what you need to do. It gives you the ingredients that go into it. For instance, when you're analyzing your internal issues or operation, it tells you how to do that. And then it tells you how long it should take you to complete it. And I may even be coming out with an app that will go along. So there will be tools to go with it.
Very cool.
So that's coming in the fall.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I'm so happy we connected again, and I'll do a better job at keeping in touch. No,
this has been great, though. Thank you so much, Corey. And take care, Matt.
Thank you. All right. Carolyn is awesome. Such a pleasure to work with, and so happy to have her in my network. If you need any information on her, you can always reach out to me as well, and I can put you in touch. Matt, did we have any questions this week? What makes KeyHire process different? So this is an interesting question. So it actually, the KeyHire process, the acquisition process we use is called Target, Engage, Hire, and it's quite literally based on a lot of the fundamentals that Carolyn outlined. So targeting is we build what we call an avatar, which she would call a persona, to really get down into, we look at the three main areas of the business or the person we want to bring in. We want to look at capacity and experience. We are a business building consultancy. So if you want to grow, we look at experience and capacity. So we often say, we're not hiring people to run a $5 million a year business. We're hiring people to run a $20 million a year business, currently doing 5. The second area we would look at is culture. We want to make sure, as we said, we're usually bringing people into a small management team, and they're going to represent a large chunk of that culture. So we really clearly want to understand what that is. And then the third piece is what we call our KPIs, or key performance indicators. We use them a little differently in the text that we want to really understand the needs of the business and make sure that we're bringing people in that can meet that need. So an easy example would be if we're looking for an operations leader, a director, a VP, or whatever, and this has been a mom and pop shop and their delivery is struggling, we might want to bring someone in who is has experience with Lean and Six Sigma and can lean them out and build up their processes and make them more efficient. Someone with a health and safety background to kind of put safety programs in place, things like that. So people are bringing in more experience than we need today, but can design process and procedure for the business to grow into. So that's just the targeting part. We put a ton of effort and a lot of hours into developing that avatar. Once we have the avatar, we create your custom, what we call marketing message. And it is very specific. It's designed to get people to say hell yeah or hell no. We don't want tire kickers. Tire kickers waste everyone's time. Once we create that message, we want to find out where these people are hanging out, much like Carolyn said. And then we want to get the message in front of them. And this is when we start engaging them. We start a conversation. It's not, here's the job description. Are you interested? We use a 3 email or a 3 message cycle when we target and engage with our candidates. They're based on the buying emotions. So the first message people get from us is one that is very the logical argument, and they have to go in this order. Then if generally 1/3 of the people are motivated by logical argument, if we're going after engineers or accountants, it's going to be higher than 1/3. Then we go after the emotional argument, right? And then that should trigger about 1/3 of the people to respond. And then the final argument is the scarcity. Act now or you'll miss out, right? And we do have a response rate, even in this market, that is better than 60%. I would have to do the exact math on it, but we get a large response. And a response saying not interested, don't bug me, that's still a response, because we know we can eliminate that person. We don't just have kind of someone who's ghosting us and we're waiting and wondering if they're ever going to get back to us. Then, so that's a target engaged. And then the hire is a whole hiring process, which is in our ebook, Hiring in the Key of C, which walks you through our entire hiring process, how you can build out your entire custom hiring process for your business. And it will absolutely maximize your opportunity to land the people you want in your business and not put you into a hiring the best of the worst candidate. Matt, how is that for long-winded? Do we have any more? A short, maybe one that has a short answer. Long question, short answer. Is an employee referral program beneficial, or should I look for candidates on my own? So if you're thinking of using an agency, and I've already shared my views on agencies on this, I don't think that's the best model, the pay to play, the fee-based programs. But generally they charge 20%, for our 20 to 30%. For this example, let's use 20%. If you're looking for someone, you're going to pay $80,000, you're going to pay an agency $16,000. My thought is, wouldn't you rather pay that money to your employees? Wouldn't you rather incentivize your employees with that kind of money to bring in people they know, like, and trust, and that will assimilate and probably be a better culture fit than what an agency can bring you potentially? Most people have a referral program that is very small. It's $1,500. I'll share a real life example with you. When I was back up in Canada, I worked with a Fortune 500 company, and for their sales team, they had an incentive program that was, I think, $3,000, $1,500 at hire and $1,500 after the 3-month probationary period. Well, these guys were making 120, 150K. They didn't care about $3,000. Why would they? They would rather go for beers with their friends and spend that money than do the referral. It didn't make any sense. And so what I told them was, you're paying me a ton of money to find you salespeople. Give them the money and get them to refer their friends. Referrals work. The probability of success through referrals is greater than agency often. So this is the thing. If you're going to do it well. And another secret most people miss out is they do a referral program and they pay people in secret. If you're going to do a referral program, make it worthwhile. Let's say it's $7,500. So they get hired $2,500 at hire. And on the first day of work, there's you with the big big cardboard check, cake in the office, rewarding it to the employee who brought in the successful referral. At the 3-month mark, cake in the office, big cardboard check with another $2,500. After a year, cake in the office, another big cardboard check at $2,500. Pretty soon, everyone in the office is going to be thinking, hey, man, I want one of those big cardboard checks. What are they going to start doing? Referring. If you keep it a secret, and it doesn't work. If it's too small a value and you keep it a secret, it'll never gain traction. If you invest in it, make it worthwhile, and celebrate it at every opportunity, people will start participating. All right. I think we are up on time. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I know your time is valuable. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Until then, we do have our free resources. You can schedule a consultation with us. If you're having any human capital issues in your business, you're trying to develop a new role, you have an underperforming manager, you're not getting any interest in the positions you're trying to fill, sign up. It's free. It's 30 minutes, no weirdness, no sales, just good conversation. If you like what you hear and you want to engage us to help you, we're happy to do that too. And we have our ebook, which is the Hiring in the Key of C. Go check that out. It's a great resource that will help you put together a hiring process that will maximize your probability of landing the right people. Our success rate with that process is we average about 1.8 interviews per offer given to our candidates with our clients. So if our clients don't hire the first person they interview, they generally hire the second one. Saves them a lot of time. I think the average man hours are like 6 to 12 man hours per hire per company. So I think that's got it. But until next time, thank you everyone for your time. We will see you in 2 weeks.